Welcome to the Effortless English Show with the world's #1 English teacher, AJ Hoge, where AJ's more than 40 million students worldwide finally learn English once and for all, without the boring textbooks, classrooms, and grammar drills. Here's AJ with a quick piece to help you learn to speak fluent English effortlessly.
Hi, I'm AJ Hoge, the author of Effortless English. Learn to speak English like a native. Join my VIP program today. Join and commit to my VIP program. You've got to commit, right? Of course, 1 month's not enough time. You train your English. Just like an athlete training for a sport. Right? You get stronger. Each month you get stronger as you train, and that's what my VIP program does for your English speaking. You train your English speaking to speak English fluently, to speak English powerfully, to speak English effortlessly, which means you think in English. This requires training, and that's what my VIP program is for, to train you each month, training you each day, each week, each month, each year. And you become a very advanced English speaker. So join my VIP program and stay a VIP member if you already have joined. Keep working, keep going. You will succeed, I promise you. Join my VIP program, remain a VIP member, and join at effortlessenglishclub.com. effortlessenglishclub.com. That's where you join my VIP program, at effortlessenglishclub.com. I am still on the island of Guam. A few of you asked me about Guam on social media. It seems like some people had to look on a map, to look on Google Maps, or another online map program to find Guam. Where is Guam? I understand, because Guam is a very small island. It's not a big, famous place. Even Hawaii, I think, is much more famous, because Hawaii is a state. It's one of the 50 states in the United States. So Hawaii definitely is bigger, has many more people. Hawaii is closer to the mainland United States, right? The main part of the United States. But Guam is far, far, far away from most of the United States. In fact, it's the farthest away. It's the farthest American territory. Guam is, in fact, in Asia. It's much closer to Japan than America. It's close to Taiwan. It's closest to the Philippines. So out in the Pacific Ocean, it is to the east of the Philippines. Guam is one of those islands, one of the many small islands, where the Americans and the Japanese fought during World War II. So one of the big, tough Pacific battles of World War II happened here on Guam. Also on another island nearby, Saipan. Lots of these little islands. The Americans and Japanese had, terrible, terrible, terrible fighting on these little tropical islands. And there was a really terrible fight here on Guam. But peaceful now. And in fact, Guam now gets a lot of Japanese tourists. And Korean tourists too. To me, Guam feels, I I don't know, it feels like a combination of America and the Philippines, like somewhere in the middle. A lot of the people are ethnically Filipinos. Right, it means their family background, right? Their ancestors were from the Philippines. They were Filipinos. So they are now, of course, they are Filipino Americans. So they're American citizens, but racially or ethnically, culturally, Filipino. The main American group, white or Europeans, are actually a small minority here on Guam. I think officially something like just under 10%. If you add the military, because this is a big, big military base, two actually, big military bases here on Guam for the United States. If you add all those people, and that's a lot of military here, then maybe the kind of mainland, mostly white Americans might be something more like 15% of the population of Guam, something like that. So still, it's a small group. So walking around, if you see mostly people who look Filipino, but they speak perfect English, American English. So culturally, the food, the businesses, everything feels like, again, it's in between. It's a mix of the Philippines and mainland America, which actually I kind of like. It's interesting. It's got its own kind of unique feel and culture here. What else? Of course, it's a tropical island, right? So it's much like Hawaii. It has that perfect tropical Pacific weather, meaning that it's basically perfect weather. Sometimes they get typhoons. A typhoon is, a big, big, big storm. Basically, in the Pacific Ocean, we call them typhoons, and in the Atlantic, we call them hurricanes. It's the same idea. Big, powerful storms, right? Strong, strong, strong wind, rain, all of that. So I think it's during the normal, like in the rest of America, during the fall and summer seasons, that the typhoons can come. I think we just finishing typhoon season here. So kind of the summer. They got hit by one this year. I think they usually get hit by typhoons here on Guam. Because of that, because they get typhoons so often, most of the buildings are cement. You do not see many buildings made from wood or anything light. It's these kind of heavy cement, concrete buildings. Which honestly, they're not pretty. They're kind of ugly buildings, really. Most of them are kind of old. There's less money here than Hawaii. It's one of the big differences. See, Hawaii almost never gets typhoons. I don't know. It's something about the location of Hawaii, which is more to the north and east from here. Hawaii is really in the center of the Pacific Ocean. Guam is much closer to Asia, South Asia. So for some reason, Hawaii usually avoids typhoons. Hawaii can get some storms occasionally. It can happen, but it's not common. Much, much, much less common in Hawaii to get storms, to powerful storms like that. Here in more South Pacific, it's very common. Hawaii, another difference I noticed between Hawaii is more American feeling, right? There are a lot more mainland American people in Hawaii. Of course, Hawaii is a full state, so it's not surprising, and it's closer to the mainland. And Hawaii has a lot more money. You just can feel it when you drive around in Honolulu or on Maui, just everywhere. All the buildings look more new and nice. Everything looks newer and nicer. It just feels like there's more development, much more money in Hawaii. And because Hawaii has a big tourist industry, because they're closer to the mainland United States, lots and lots and lots of Americans visit Hawaii every year. Also, lots and lots and lots of Japanese visit Hawaii every year, too. So Hawaii's right in the middle. And so Hawaii gets a huge amount of tourism from both the United States, also Canada, and from Japan. So a lot more money in Hawaii, and you can just tell everything looks newer and nicer, more developed in Hawaii. Here in Guam, everything feels kind of old. To me, it looks like everything was built about 30 or 40 years ago. The buildings are all older. The paint is kind of, coming off of most of the buildings. Everything's kind of old, square cement. So it definitely has an older feeling, look. You can tell there's less money here. There's still money coming in here. And they get money from the military here, the American military, of course, and they get money from tourism, Japan and Korea mostly, but less tourism, much less tourism here than to Hawaii. So those are the differences. However, the good part of that is that Guam is cheaper than Hawaii. The prices in Guam, for example, hotel prices, they're probably 30% less than Hawaii. Something like that, 35% lower than Hawaii. Renting a car is probably also 35% cheaper than Hawaii. A lot of the restaurants are cheaper. So everything's just a bit cheaper here than Hawaii. That's nice. What's similar is the weather. The weather is just that same perfect weather, except for the typhoons. But all the other times, which is most of the time, is that same perfect weather. It never gets too hot. It gets hot during the day. Fahrenheit, if you remember your Fahrenheit, it gets up into the upper 80s, like 88, 89, maybe on a very hot day, 90, but almost never above that here. And of course, it does not get cold here. It never gets cold here. In the evenings, right now at sunset, I'm sitting on a balcony at my hotel room, and I'm looking at the ocean right now at sunset. So the clouds are purple and blue and pink. And the ocean, here at sunset, the ocean is kind of a dark, dark blue. And the temperature at night, the evenings, is wonderful, perfect. It drops down to about 80 degrees, maybe 78, something like that. So I've got shorts and a short sleeve shirt on, but not hot, not cool, right in that perfect zone. So all year, that perfect temperature, all year it's sunny. When it rains here, usually, it doesn't usually rain all day. It'll, rain for, kind of a little rain shower. A rainstorm will come in, and it'll rain, and then it blows away, and it's sunny again. That's what happened yesterday. In fact, we were snorkeling, we were swimming in the ocean. A little bit of rain came, and then it's gone. And about 30 minutes later, it's gone. So all in all, a very, very nice place to relax and enjoy. I'm having a good time. I feel very relaxed. It's just getting into the ocean, just the sun and the ocean for me. Very, very, very nice. So that's my update on Guam. This is kind of an update episode. My next update. I'm thinking of recording a new course. Making a new course. But I'm thinking of making a new mini course or short course. So not a full course, not as long as my pronunciation course, not as long as Power English, for example. Something shorter, something I can record during about a month here and during the winter. Because I think in the winter time, we're thinking of coming back to Guam for the winter. You may know, but I really don't like winter. Just those super cold months in the middle of winter. Oh man, I get kind of depressed, especially if it's the dark days, the lack of sun. That's really the worst. So we're thinking of, for the winter, just a couple months of going somewhere with sun. We've thought about Hawaii, we've thought about Southeast Asia, but Guam may be the perfect place for us to come spend just a couple months. Anyway, for the winter, I'm thinking of a project, and I think I could record an audio course. I won't be able to do video. This cannot be a video course because I'll be traveling a little bit, but I can use my audio recorder and record an audio course. But I'm just trying to think of what kind of course do I want. It's going to be shorter than normal. What to do, I'm not sure. Here are a few ideas I have. You can share other ideas with me on social media. Oh, by the way, social media. Of course, I'm on Twitter. AJ Hoge, AJHOGE on Twitter. Now, I've been promoting Gab. You may know that Gab is down right now. Gab is down because those bastards in California, the tech companies, are trying to destroy free speech. I'll talk about that more in a minute, about Gab. But anyway, if you've got ideas for a course, you can tell me on social media. Now, I know some that you probably will suggest. I know people ask for a writing course. That's a common one. I understand that there's a demand, there's a need for writing. I understand that very much. But the problem is this. I don't know how to teach writing online. Especially using audio. Maybe audio and text. I really don't know how to teach you well to write well just using audio and text. I don't really have a good method for that. I have the one method I know that works well that I've used in the past, especially when I was teaching in schools and in classrooms. I have a good method for teaching writing, but really it's more of a one-on-one coaching method, right? One-to-one. And I can't do that. I don't have the time to do that, and it would be super expensive for you to do one-on-one writing coaching with me. I'd have to charge you too much money. So I need a method to teach writing for large numbers of people where I can record it, either write and record. And I just honestly don't know how to do that well enough. I can think of some ideas, but they're kind of normal, standard ideas. You could just find any writing book on English and do that yourself, but they're not that great, as you know. That's why people ask me, because there really are not any good, and certainly I don't know any great writing courses. So I'm sorry about that. I understand that, and maybe I'll figure that out. And that might be something. I'll keep thinking. During the next couple months, I can't record this new course, until later in the year. So we have some time to think about it. So I'll think about writing. I'll do some research. I'll try to be more creative and think and see if I can create a method to teach writing well that I feel is really great, that will work powerfully, that fits into the Effortless English system. If I can't do it well, I'm not going to do it at all. It's got to be great, or I won't do it. Other ideas. Business English. Many of you know already that I had a business English course with my dad called Business English Conversations Business English Conversations was a great course. Many of you love that course that I did with my father. But my father decided to retire that course. He was the one who was managing the course, and he just he's older and he's ready to retire. Just didn't want to do it anymore. Didn't want to manage the website and all of that. And so we agreed to retire that course for now. Maybe I'll talk to him about it and see if I could make some deal with him where I could sell that course again and, give him some percentage of the sales. And I don't know, maybe I could add to that course, add some extra stuff to it. Or my other idea, if my dad still doesn't want to deal with that, the other idea is I would record a new course, a new business English course. Just me. Idea number 3. I've thought of doing something called like the Tao of English. Tao. The Tao of English or Zen English or something like that. Where basically I discuss, this would be more a course focused on a topic. And the topic would be kind of the old Zen and Taoist philosophy and teaching. So I would use quotes and sections from the Tao Te Ching, of course the English version of the Tao Te Ching, which was a very strong influence, that philosophy, a super strong influence on Effortless English, still is. Maybe some other Zen stories, Zen writings, and maybe even add in some quotes or ideas from the Dhammapada, maybe even the Gita, something like that. Call it like Zen English or the Tao of English or something like that. And so it'll be more focused on philosophical topics, specifically Eastern philosophy. Just because I'm very interested in that topic, I think it's very, very interesting. I think these philosophies are very powerful, very useful for us in our lives, and very meaningful. That's idea number 3. Idea number 4 I'm thinking about would be something like travel Effortless English. Effortless English for travel. Again, the focus would be on a specific topic, the topic of travel. So teaching you phrases and vocab and stories or whatever that are useful for traveling, for flying, for buses and trains, planes, trains, automobiles, hotels, restaurants. Probably I would include maybe some of my personal travel stories from traveling around the world for all these years. Some of my travel advice, travel tips, how to travel and save money, how to travel and be safe, how to travel and be healthy and not get too sick, and teaching you vocabulary for all those travel situations. That's another idea. Those are my main 4 ideas right now that I'm thinking about for doing a course, a shorter course, maybe like a half length, about half the length of Power English. If you've got other ideas for an English speaking course, some kind of English speaking course, then please let me know on Twitter or Gab. Gab will be back soon. Let's talk about Gab now. Gab's coming back. Right now, Gab is down. Let's talk about the situation. What happened with Gab? I didn't really talk about it. Many of you contacted me on Twitter telling me about it. Of course, I already know about it. What happened with Gab? Well, basically, here's the situation. California in the United States, the state of California, is a very socialist, kind of communist state. The culture there is communist, and it's becoming more and more and more communist. Now, in the past, California used to be the leader. It used to be like an economic and cultural leader in the United States, where new things would happen in California, then spread to the rest of the country. For much of my life, that was true. California was this cool, creative, innovative place. Lots of entrepreneurs were in California. It was the place of entrepreneurs. That's why it's one of the reasons I moved to San Francisco. I really wanted to go there. It was all about freedom. California had this reputation for maximum freedom. But sadly, that has all changed. Probably in the last 10, maybe even more than that. I don't know when it started, maybe even 15, 20 years ago, but certainly in the last 10 years. A huge change. And now California does not lead the country anymore. I'd say quite the opposite. California is becoming a disaster. And this is, of course, what happens every time a country or a location becomes socialist and becomes more and more and more socialist and moving towards communist. It becomes a disaster. We see it in Cuba. We see it in Venezuela's the perfect example of what happens, because it's the perfect recent example where before, it was a nice solid country. Of course it had problems, but it was a good country. And then they became socialist and communist, and now it is a huge disaster. A huge disaster for freedom, where there's really not much freedom there anymore politically, and of course economically a massive, huge, gigantic super disaster. It's so bad that now thousands and thousands and thousands of people are leaving Venezuela trying to escape. Kind of like what happened in East Germany, where people used to try to jump over the wall to escape, right? People try to escape communism. So really terrible. Well, California is becoming, they cannot be 100% communist because they're part of the United States. Each state does not have that much power. They can't completely go against the whole country, but they can try, and California is a very large state, and it's with a lot of money and very powerful, and so California has gone against a lot of the country in many ways. And specifically, they've become very socialist, very communist. And this is especially true in Hollywood, in the Hollywood industry, and in Silicon Valley. In fact, I would say California is the leader of what I call corporate communism, which is a weird kind of communism that has happened recently. It's kind of a modern version of communism that has happened. It's different than the old Cuba style or the old Soviet style. It's this kind of communism that is combined with huge, gigantic corporations, gigantic companies. In fact, what's interesting it is very much the kind of communism described in George Orwell's book 1984. Kind of bureaucratic communism where the communism is the power of the communism and the control is not only in the government but also concentrated in these gigantic super big companies, and the big companies are connected to the big government, and they're working together to destroy freedom. That is what's happening in California and Silicon Valley. So you've got companies like Google and Facebook and Apple and Twitter and even Amazon and a bunch of several other ones that are smaller than those, but those are the really big ones that everybody knows. But these big tech companies are acting like communist governments. They are now trying to block free speech. They specifically try to block any in America, they try to block speech that's from the Republican Party, that's more what people call conservative, right? People who, they try to block the speech of people who are religious, specifically Christian. They try to block the speech of people who are patriotic, who really love America and their country. They try to block, they mostly block people who are men, who are more Republican. That group, they hate that group. So they will allow very violent speech. For example, Twitter, Google, Facebook. They allow communist groups, like a group called Antifa, who are a violent communist group. They allow them to publish terrible stuff on their websites, on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter. Those groups make threats, they make insults, all kinds of terrible stuff, but these communist companies support them because they're communists. But then when just really kind of normal patriotic or conservative people, anti-communist people, when they try to post things, then they get blocked, then they get banned, right? These companies attack them, and these companies now have huge power. These companies get billions and billions and billions of dollars from the U.S. government, the American government. They also get money from the California government. So they're kind of combined with government. And in many ways, you know, these kind of communist type people with huge amounts of power are using these companies for censorship. In America, we have something called the First Amendment, freedom of speech, where the U.S. government, it's very difficult for them to censor, for them to block speech, which is great. But what is happening is that these communist companies in America are controlling communication, and it's these big communist companies that are causing the censorship. And not only in America, right? They did the same thing in Brazil, and they're doing this very strongly now because of recent elections. In Brazil, they just had a very big, important election, and these companies, especially Facebook, they were doing a lot of censorship against the supporters of the now president, of the new president of Brazil. These communist companies don't like him because he's very anti-communist. His name is Bolsonaro. And I love him, by the way. I love Bolsonaro. He's in America, our nickname for Bolsonaro is Tropical Trump. We love him. We love Bolsonaro. Tropical Trump. Anyway, Facebook, Twitter too, I think, but Facebook especially, did so much censorship against Bolsonaro's supporters, trying to censor him and block him. And at the same time, Facebook very unfairly was trying to support his opponent, the people on what we call the left, the socialist, the communist. And then now in the United States, we have a very big, important election coming next week. It's not for the president. The president will remain the same, but it's for the rest of our government. Very important. And again, these tech companies are doing exactly the same thing, where they are blocking and banning and censoring basically people who are Republicans who support Donald Trump's party. And at the same time, they are boosting and helping the Democrats, who are the kind of anti-American socialist party. So these companies have so much power, and they're using it much like a communist government would. Very, very, very dangerous. But see, it goes beyond that. It's more than just censorship. They're doing more than just censorship on their own websites. Some people will argue, well, it's their website. They can do what they want. I don't think that is true. I think that is absolutely wrong because, as I said, these are not just private companies. These companies get huge amounts of money from governments, specifically the U.S. government. And these companies are controlling most of the social media now, which is an important part of communication. So just like the phone companies cannot censor, they should not be able to censor also. But here's the problem. It's not only on their own websites. So even if you say, well, Facebook can censor, it's their website, they can do what they want. But here's the problem. People will say, well, conservatives should just start their own website, start their own social media. Then they can say what they want. No censorship. Well, they did that in America. They started Gab. Now, they started Gab not only for conservatives, but it was mostly conservative people who started Gab because of the censorship, because they were being kicked off of Twitter, blocked on Facebook, trying to silence them, these communist tech companies in California, trying to silence anybody who was not socialist. And that's what socialists do. They hate freedom of speech. So they started Gab. They said, okay, fine. It's your websites. We're just going to leave. We're going to start our own, and we'll have our own social media. It's going to be free speech social media. And Gab said, anybody can come on here and say anything. We have free speech. Right? So if you're a socialist or a communist, you can still come on to Gab. You can write what you want. Antifa, even though they're horrible people, they can come on, they can write. And conservatives can come on, Democrats can come on, Republicans can come on. A lot of Brazilians join Gab for the same reason, because they're being blocked by Facebook. So Bolsonaro supporters join Gab, a lot of them. But people who hate Bolsonaro can also get on Gab and say bad stuff about him if they want to. They don't need to, because they already have Facebook and Twitter, which are pro-socialist. So it's not surprising that on Gab you'll find a lot more conservatives, but you also find some communists. You might even find people who are say they're Nazis. You might find people who are racist. You might find people who are anti-racist. Right? It's a free speech social media. That's what free speech is. And if you don't like somebody, you just block them, or they call it mute. You just mute them, and then you don't have to listen to them. They had a lot of trolls when they first started, which was just too annoying. That's why I left Gab before. But I still believe Gab has a right. They absolutely had a right. Even then, with all the trolls, they had a right to have a website. Right? It's free speech. I didn't like most of the people who were on there because of all the trolls. But, they had a right. They should not be censored. But Gab solved that problem. They made it... their muting works much better now. Because, see, before I would try to mute people, but then I would still be getting their messages, so it was really annoying, very frustrating. Now, the mute works really well. And because the mute works better now, a lot of the trolls left. There's still trolls on Gab. There are trolls on Twitter, too. But a lot of them left Gab because the mute feature works very well now. And a lot of just more normal people, just regular normal people, joined Gab. And Gab improved a lot. And that's why I rejoined Gab, and also because Twitter and Facebook both are shadow banning me, and YouTube now. All three of them are now shadow banning me. This is one of the games these communist tech companies play. Some people they ban completely. They delete your account. They block you completely. That's especially for big people. But they're doing it more and more now. But the other game they play is called shadow banning. And you still have an account, but they don't show your posts or they don't show your videos to many people. They only show your videos to a few people. They limit who sees your tweets, for example, on Twitter. So even though I might have, let's say, 100,000 followers, they will only show my tweets to 3,000, right? Only to 3%. Facebook does this so much. I have 300, almost 400,000 followers on Facebook. On one channel, I have another Facebook, Learn Real English Facebook, has 1 million. So I have almost 1.5 million Facebook followers. But if I do a post, if I do a video, they only show my videos or my posts to maybe 6,000 or 7,000. Less than 10%. A very tiny number. And now I've noticed YouTube is doing the same. Again, YouTube, I think I have 500,000 subscribers. They're supposed to, be notified every time I do a new video, but they don't. They only show it to maybe 10 or 20,000. This is called shadow banning. So what they do, these communist companies, that if you are more conservative or if you go against, like they don't like me because I like homeschooling. I don't like government schools. So they shadow ban me. Then they do the opposite with people who are kind of socialistic or communist, people that the politics they like. They do the opposite. They boost them. They increase their viewers. They increase the number of people who see those posts, those videos, and then they shadow ban, right? They partly block, they limit anyone who's patriotic or conservative or religious or pro-family. Those people they don't like. Because of that, I've rejoined Gab, and Gab is much better now. I have had zero problems with trolls. No troll problems this time, which is great. So Gab was working fantastic. So guess what happened? Silicon Valley, these evil companies, these communist bastards, found another way to block Gab. What did they do? First of all, PayPal, right? This is a financial company. They process credit cards and payments. Gab was using them for payments, right? Gab has subscribers. That's how they make money. You can get like a pro subscription, a pro level account, and get a few extra features. You can use video and some things. Anyway, that's how they made money. Well, guess what? PayPal, another communist company in California, just blocked them. Just said, you can't use our service now. You cannot process your payments with us. So basically cut off all of Gab's money. Then that's not enough. See, these companies work together. These communist companies, they work together and they attack websites and people at the same time. So they're working together. So the PayPal blocked Gab, and at the same time their web host, right, the computer servers, right, this is the computers where the website is actually hosted. Well, their website host also blocked them, told them you're going to lose your hosting in 24 hours. They only gave them 1 day, and 1 day we're kicking you off, and 1 day you cannot keep your website on our computers. And then, not only that, then GoDaddy, which is a terrible company, by the way. GoDaddy, this is called a domain server, right? A domain. This is where the name, you're the name of your website, where you buy it and host it. So, for example, gab.com. Well, you can go on GoDaddy and you register. It's a domain register, I think is the correct term. GoDaddy is one of the big ones, probably the biggest one, where you can, if you want to buy a website name, let's say you want to buy, bluesky.com, you can go on GoDaddy and you see if it's available, then you can buy it. Now it's yours, bluesky.com, and you register, this is my website name, bluesky.com. No one else can use it. Well, guess what? That company also decided to block Gab. They told Gab, you cannot register your website name, gab.com. You can't register it with us, GoDaddy, anymore. We're kicking you off. All right, so this was several companies were all working together. Also, Apple blocked their app. Also, Google, Android, blocked their app. All these companies working together to silence. So see, it's not enough. Even if you try to leave Facebook, even if you try to create your own social media alternative to Twitter, then they still work together because they control the whole internet. They control the payment processing, right? Because they also work with the banks. The big banks are also becoming very communist in the United States and Europe. So it's this whole system, this kind of communist company, corporate communist system, and they are working together more and more and more to silence people, just like in 1984. Thought control, mind control. This is what socialism and communism always creates, because they hate freedom of speech. They hate freedom of thought. They cannot accept it. They cannot tolerate it. And anyone who disagrees with them, they must silence. Because, see, they always lose. This is why they have to silence people. They have to silence speech, because they always lose, because it's a bad system. It's a bad system. It doesn't work. If you allow people to openly talk about it and disagree, well, guess what? Eventually, the communists lose, because it's a bad system, and it's very easy to show that it's a bad system. We can just point to history again and again and again. So the only way they can win is to silence people, or, of course, when they get power, when they get government power, then they put people in prison, they kill thousands or millions of people, and they're doing it in Venezuela now, putting their people who are against them, putting them into jail, killing some of them. This is what they do. This is what they have always done. Luckily, they don't have government power, not completely. They have part government power in the United States, but not enough. So they can't really put people in jail and kill them right now, but these companies certainly can, and they are trying to silence people. And this is why you see the TV media. These are socialist, communist, CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, the New York Times, the Washington Post, almost every newspaper in the United States, all of the main media like that are also corporate communists. So you've got all these gigantic companies all working together to try to silence. And yet, what's encouraging, the great thing is, they're still losing. All of that. They did all of that. They were doing all these tricks, playing all these games, and yet in Brazil, they lost, and they lost big. Bolsonaro didn't just win. He won big. He destroyed his opponent. He crushed his opponent. And this is happening in America too. It's backfiring. People don't like this. People are getting angry. Of course, there are some people who hate America, kind of socialist communists in America. Of course, there are some. But there are also many, many people who are patriots who hate this censorship, and the anger about these companies is growing and growing and growing. So the bad news is, because of all of this, Gab had to close their website for a while, right? They had to search for other solutions, and it's not easy because these California communist companies have a lot of power. They control every part of the internet. It's very hard to find a hosting company, for example, that is not communist or socialist. It's very hard to find a bank or a payment processor that's not corporate communist, socialist. Very difficult. But it seems like I just noticed, I got a message from Gab. It looks like they did find a computer, a host, and also a host for their name, a name registrar, it's called, that are strongly free speech. So it seems like they have found those two things. Hopefully they can find some kind of payment processor. But I don't know, because most of the credit card processors and the banks are socialist or communist. PayPal is. Stripe, that's another big one. They're also socialist. All of these companies hate free speech. They're against free speech. But hopefully it seems like Gab is coming back. I don't know when. I'm hoping Gab will come back in the next week, maybe next week. Maybe after the election in the United States, we'll get Gab back up again. And after that, if Gab comes back, I plan to be even more active on Gab to support them. And I will be less active on Facebook and Twitter because I hate those companies. I hate them. I hate what they're doing. I hate their censorship. I hate their values. I hate their whole communist corporate communist, agenda, mission. They are evil. Google is evil. Facebook is evil. Twitter is evil. Yes, even Amazon, Netflix, these are evil companies. Any company based in California, any of these main tech companies, they're evil. And we all know, everybody around the world knows how evil these big banks are. They want to rule us all, and we've got to fight them. So we got to focus on the good news. Bolsonaro is great news. Hopefully, I'm praying that next week we get more good news in the United States. And the patriots, the people who love freedom, will do well in that election, and we can keep fighting. But it doesn't matter. Whatever happens next week, if the patriots win big, if it's kind of close, if evil wins, and has a good election next week, it doesn't matter. We keep fighting. You keep fighting. You keep fighting. You keep fighting for freedom of speech. So I'll be back on Gab. And when Gab is back up, I will tell you, I'll give you an update. And we can support Gab even more. And maybe other alternatives too, like Minds. Another update. Let's talk about the birthday challenge. Remember my birthday challenge? We're going to walk about 100 kilometers in a weekend. That'll be in March. So we've got to train for that, right? Most people have to train for that. Most people, that's quite difficult. So it's something we have to get ready for. We got to train each week for that and get better and better. Someone asked me, what's my training plan? I'll give you my basic training plan for any long distance running or walking. It's very similar to a plan I use to train for a marathon. This is the easiest, simplest plan I know. So we're trying to get up to 100 kilometers total. We can do that in 2 or 3 days. I'm not sure if I'm doing 2 or 3 days. Even 3 days is still 3 long days. So here's what we do. Here's my plan. During the week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, I will do some I'll do some training, walking, maybe jogging, but not too long. So for example, I will walk about an hour and a half or to 2 hours, 90 minutes to 120 minutes every day. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Now, of course, that's not a lot compared to our goal for the challenge. So how do we prepare for the goal? How do we get ready for those very long walking days? Well, we do that with what's called a long walk or a long run, and we do that on the weekend. With running and marathon training, it's called a long run. And the idea with marathon training, this is not for professional runners, okay? This is just for average people like you and me. You just want to finish a marathon. Well, what you do is, it's the same idea. During most days, like Monday through Friday, you would just jog a small distance, maybe only about 30 to 40 minutes each day, nice and slowly. Those are your basic runs just to keep your body moving and feeling good. But then you would do a long run every weekend. Since we're planning to do walking, instead we can do walking instead of running, but it's the same idea. So 1 or 2 days on the weekend, we'll start with one day, let's say Sunday. Sunday, we do a long run each week. And what we do is each week, that becomes longer. So let's say we're doing 2 hours a day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Even Saturday. 2 hours every day. Then on Sunday, we've got a long walk. Well, the first Sunday, we would do our normal amount, 2 hours, and then add 20 minutes. Add 20 minutes, or add 30 minutes, something like that. Let's say 30, and make it easier. We add 30 minutes. So on Sunday, we do 2.5 hours of walking. Right? It increases, right? Our body is used to 2 hours. And now we add it. We're challenging our body a bit. by doing 30 extra minutes. But it's not too much extra. It's enough. We can handle it. Your body can handle that. If 30 minutes is too much, just do 20 minutes each week. But you see, so you do 2.5 hours on Sunday. The next Monday, what do? You just go back to your 2 hours again. The other days don't change. It's always 90 minutes, or it could even just be 1 hour. Whatever we call that a maintenance, like a maintenance walk. It's just your normal everyday walk. That's just to maintain your fitness. It's the long run or the long walk. That's what increases your fitness. And you only do that once, or possibly later we could do it twice a week. So we do 2.5 hours, then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, right back to our normal amount, 2 hours. The next Sunday, we increase 30 minutes again. Now it's 3 hours. So the next Sunday, we walk for 3 hours in that day. Again, so we're increasing 30 minutes. We do 3 hours. The next Monday, what do? Just our normal walk again. 2 hours Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. 2 hours again every day. And then the next Sunday, you get the idea, right? Add 30 minutes again. Now it's 3.5 hours. Your long walk is now 3.5 hours. All the rest of them stay the same. Those other regulars, walks, never change. But the long one keeps getting longer and longer and longer and longer. And you just keep going. We just keep going until that long walk becomes like 12 hours. Because that's what we have to get ready, right? Because when we do the challenge, the birthday challenge, we're going to be walking 10, 11, 12 hours per day. At least 12 hours, I would say. You're going to have to walk at least 12 hours to do that, even in 3 days. Even if you do it 3 days, 10 to 12 hours per day of walking. That's walking time. We're not including break times, meal times. All right, that's the actual time walking. You're going to have to do that for 10 to 12 hours each day. So we've got to build the long walk up to somewhere near that, 10, 11, 12 hours. Because we're doing this over a few days, what you can do is after Sunday's long walk gets long, then you can also do a long walk on Saturday. So maybe Saturday, you also start increasing Saturday. 30 minutes each week. So they both start getting longer and longer and longer and longer and longer. And that's how you get ready. That's how you prepare for some kind of long endurance challenge like this. And that's my plan. Right now I'm doing 1 long walk per week on Sundays. I will keep increasing that until I can get that up to, 5, 6 hours. When my Sunday walk gets up to about 6 hours, then I'll probably also start to increase Saturdays as well. So I'll start my Saturday again, starting at 2 hours, but then that'll increase 2.5. So I'll do 2.5 Saturday and then 6.5 Sunday, right? And the next week, each one increasing by 30 minutes. So both of them will go up, 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 up. And in this way, I should be ready to do the big challenge in March. If you have a different training method, a different training plan, let me know. Tell me on Twitter. When Gab comes back, tell me on Gab. Okay, that's all. It's time for me to go back inside. It's been nice chatting with you. Hope you're doing well. I'll be back again. I'll probably do at least one more show here from Guam before we go home. Until then, have a great day. And remember, you got to train your English. It's much like training for this birthday challenge, right? You increase, you increase, you increase. You challenge, you challenge, you challenge. And most importantly, you do it every day, every day, every day, getting a little better, a little better, a little better, every week, every month. It takes several months. It takes many months. Your goal is to speak fluently like a native speaker, to think in English. You have a high goal, so you've got to stay with it month after month, every month. So train, commit, Join my VIP program at effortlessenglishclub.com. Speak English powerfully, speak English fluently, speak English effortlessly, and think in English. Go to effortlessenglishclub.com. Go now. You can read more about the VIP program and my other courses. Join now at effortlessenglishclub.com. Go now to effortlessenglishclub.com.